Okay, welcome to part 3. Hopefully I'll finish this quickly here in this part. There won't be any more parts. Okay, so he started the muscle testing, I think is where I was at, and I was saying that you hold the muscle and then he pushes against it and you're supposed to resist. If you are not able to resist, then that indicates a neurological problem. So then he checks out which nerve and how to correct whatever problem is going on with the nerve. So he started with my legs. My right leg had, actually I expected, because of all the problems I've had, and I haven't had energy and I haven't been able to move, my body doesn't move the way it's supposed to move, and I have a lot of pain. I have felt like I've lost a lot of muscle strength. And throughout the testing, it actually seemed that I had a lot more strength than possibly what is typical with chronically ill people, and much fewer actual muscle impairments than I expected. I only had two. He did several different tests on the leg, and I only had 2 issues. Then he did the other leg, and I only had 1 on my left side. All 3 of those problems, the left side was a psoas muscle, and I can't remember the name of the muscle he said on the right. And all 3 of the problems, there was 1 muscle on the right, but 2 problems. 1 muscle and 1 problem on the left. All of them came back to 1 nerve, sort of in the upper lower back of my left side. And each time he discovered a problem, he would say, okay, this is what that would do. First one, he said, that's going to cause a lot of torquing in your pelvis. So then the second was like, that's going to cause more torquing. And then the third one, he's like, that's really going to pull. Now you got these 3 things pulling all out of torquing is the word he used. Everything all goofy. And I was like, yep, that is definitely what happens. So then he found the nerve, and it was nerve aggravation because of something with a disc in the back. He took his percussor with the oval, almost ball type end. He pushed it into my abdomen on the left side. He had to push pretty hard, pretty far in, but it didn't hurt at all. There was a part that was tender, and he said it's going to be tender, but I could tell it must have been the disc he was working with, because it wasn't like an organ that was hurting. It was, I could feel it, in the area that would affect my back then. And that would be like the front of my back. And he used the percussor on that. It took a little bit, and then he retested both of my legs, and they were fine. And I was like, oh my gosh. At that point, I actually right before he did the percussor, when he said, all this stuff is this one problem, we're going to fix it, I actually started tearing up. That's the first time I've gotten emotional over anything here, because the rest of it, like, oh, it's cool, oh, this is great, we can do this, we can do that. But the pain has been so horrible for so long. And for it to be just there was 1 problem, and correcting that, of course, I'm not expecting that every single problem now in my back is fixed, but that main huge issue that is completely paralyzing to so many activities, sitting especially, it was overwhelming that now that was just going to be fixed. And I teared up, and actually, if he'd have noticed I was tearing up and asked me something, I would have burst into tears, because I just the thought, there aren't words to describe what that's like when you've been in misery and someone's just like, oh, okay, well, we're going to fix that, and it's going to be over. It's like, oh my gosh, really? And on the one hand, it's like, oh, I'm so relieved and I'm so grateful that it's easy and quick. On the other hand, I'm like, man, I wish I would have known it was so easy and quick and where to go for the easy, quick solution, because I'd have come a long time ago. So it's frustrating to know that all this pain and misery, and all the chiropractic visits I went to, a couple times a week for a while, then week after week after week, and all the money that I spent on constant adjustments, and he just did this one thing for less than a minute, and it should be fixed now. And maybe they'll have to tweak it, but it should be good. And oh my gosh, I'm so happy. And it feels that my back feels, I can definitely feel a huge, huge difference. And after he told me, well, he did some other things too, but I'll come back to all that. But the last thing he did, like, he had me get up and walk around so he could watch how I walked to see how my posture was. And it was actually my lower posture was really good, and my back wasn't like crooked or anything, wasn't leaning to one side or anything like that. The one thing he noticed was I didn't have enough movement in my upper body, and I said, well, that's due a lot to that I've had a lot of pain in the upper body, so, that locks everything up because then you don't move things and whatever. And he said, totally understood, but was like, you need to move around more. You got to pay attention to what's going on in your upper body now. And so anyway, there was that, but other than that, he said everything was good then in the lower body. And where was I going with that? Oh, but while I was walking, then he was asking me about, like, do you stretch? Do you work out? And I said, well, I don't work out because I like to work out, but it has aggravated the problems, especially those lower back problems. And so I do try to walk every day. My life's a little bit hectic in the summertime with the kids being home. I don't always get my walk in every day. But anyway, I do try to walk every day just to get moving, because actually motion makes it feel better if I don't have enough activity. It's like there's this sweet spot where I can't have too much activity, but I have to have a certain amount. Otherwise, everything gets worse, one way or the other. So I do walk and I do stretch every day. Even if I don't walk, I make sure I stretch. And so then he asked, he said, well, do you get relief from your stretching, or are you just doing it because you feel like you should? I said, no, I absolutely get relief. I know, and when I don't do it even for one day, I can tell a huge difference, and that I'm in a lot more pain, a lot more tension, things like that. So he said, okay, well, pay attention to your stretching now this weekend and your activity, because, check out if you're going to have more range of motion and things like that. So after I got back to the hotel room, I stretched where I sit on the floor and I reach for my toes, basically, to stretch that lower back and sort of the top of the glutes. And I was amazed, because comes a point where I'm reaching forward, where usually there's pinching and pulling in the top of my lower back, if that makes sense. And I thought that was a muscle thing, and I would always be like, man, that muscle gets really tight. It's not the muscle. It was the disc nerve irritation area, and it was pinching because there was a problem. Because now with that gone, I could reach further and I could feel the stretch in my, now I'm not going to think of the name, the muscle underneath your leg and in your crotch muscle area. That's the area that for me, no matter what I do, I can't stretch it, I can't get relief in there, it gets tense and tense and tense, I can't sit because it's painful. Now all the muscles in like the upper legs, glutes, around the top of my core area and crotch area, they always get really tight, and I can't stretch them, I can't get enough relief, and I can't sit without having ridiculous amounts of pain. It's very difficult, and no wonder all the stretching I've been doing, of course it's valuable, but I wasn't able to stretch everything because I could feel the stretch in my legs and under all the way through the glutes, all that, the private area. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can believe this. This is just so amazing, and it's so awesome that quick fix. And now, hopefully I should be able to actually stretch the things that need to stretch, move the things that need to move, be active in the ways that the body is made to be active, so that it's not everything getting all torqued and pinched and therefore tensed and all that kind of thing. I can even tell, and I went and walked around and did some other stretches too that were like, man, I thought that I didn't have the core strength, and now I realize that the problem was everything was thrown off, including my balance, by this disc problem in the back. And I just, it's so crazy how different everything feels. even sitting here now, I do have some discomfort, and I'm looking forward to finishing this and resting, but it's not like discomfort that's being caused right now. I can tell it's the pain and tension that's already built up in there that needs to be worked out now, because all this just happened within the last 2 hours, 3 hours. So, oh my goodness, it was so awesome. I'm already at 10 minutes again. I'm going to stop and do a part 4. I will try harder to finish this in part 4 than I obviously tried in part 3. Okay, to be continued.